Kick off this morning looking at developments where the former COSATU leader, Bongani Masuku, was ordered to apologize to the Jewish community for statements that he made in 2009, which was deemed or considered to be hate speech. And we joined on the line this morning by PSA coordinator affiliated to the SABDS coalition, Nazim Adam. Nazim, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Inayat?
Yes, how are you doing, Nazim?
Good.
Right, Nazim, let's talk about this development where Bongani Masuku was ordered to apologize to the Jewish community, and this order had come through from the Constitutional Court. And let us just understand the context in which this matter was taken to the Constitutional Court and why was he ordered to apologize.
Okay, so there's a context to this case which is running for a couple of years now, where Bongani Masuku was, and we need to make the point, he was provoked and spurred on by the very hate and privilege of the Zionist forces in this country during the height of a bloody conflict in Gaza, where he made some comments on a website or some social media site, and also said some things at a public rally at Wits University. And because of what he said, the Zionist Federation and I think the Jewish Board of Deputies, I'm not too sure if they were an applicant, I need to just check that, they later complained at the Human Rights Commission and the Equality Court. And, well, long story short, it's now come to the Constitutional Court and they have made a ruling on the matter, which is obviously the final ruling. There were 5 or so complaints that were made, and it's on the first complaint where he references to them as friends of Hitler, or their friend Hitler, or something of the sort, which the court found to be unfair, and therefore asked Mr. Masuku to respond because it is prejudice towards the Jewish community, or deemed to be prejudice or reference to the whole community. But the important point is that the court also very clearly made it established for South African law that you cannot conflate Zionism to Judaism, and the attack on Zionism is not necessarily anti-Semitic. So there were some positives that I think we can take out from this. And the fact that in that moment of anger that Mr. Masuku may have said this and needs to apologize for it, I think that's fine. I think Bongani is a stand-up guy, and if it appeared to be racist in any way or anti-Semitic, then I'm sure that's acceptable. We are not a movement that is racist in any way. Actually, the antithesis of that, our reason for fighting against Zionism is primarily because Zionism is a racist concept and that the Israeli state is an apartheid state, which a number of human rights organizations over the past few months have just exposed and established through their own independent investigations and reports. So, that's where it stands. In fact, we must understand that at that point, and no one is asking that question, what is it that made Bongani Masuku respond in the way that he did? He was actually baited. He was baited by the Jewish students on the campus. Remember, at that time, the Zionist Federation even had a rally to celebrate the massacre that was happening in Gaza, to celebrate the war and the killing of innocent people. And we are also very much aware that many South African Jews are serving in the Israeli Defense Force. Its occupation army is made up of South African soldiers. So all of these things are hugely frustrating for someone coming from a South African struggle history against oppression, against inequality and racism. And for South Africans still to be allowed to go and occupy another country in the name of Zionism is something that just irks you to the bone, and that angers you. So in that anger, you say things, and I think that is the context that we need to ask the question, or the question that is being begged is, what is it that they did to provoke Bongani Masuku? And there is a lot. I mean, it's the smirks and the sarcasm and the just blatant white privilege arrogance that was coming through.
I think nothing what you're saying is extremely important, and for us to understand that the fact that the court had acknowledged the difference between Jewishness or Judaism and Zionism, and as you mentioned, there are positives that basically come out of it, and the fact of the matter is the court, not having said this openly, but draws this distinction very, very well in terms of Zionism and what the Zionist ideology or the racist Zionist ideology really means.
Yeah, no, 100%. The court is very clear. It says it draws a distinction between Jews and those who support Israel. And indeed, Mr. Masuku targeted those who support Israel via their membership of the IDF and the support for pro-Israel organizations. This is the facts, and I think that is now established. Those who know Bongani knows that there was never a kind of blanket attack on Jewish people or the Jewish faith and their ethnicity, but rather against the actions that many Jewish people sort of support, and that's the actions of the Israeli state, and that is unacceptable. It angers a person that in a post-apartheid South Africa you have people who can blatantly, openly support a racist state. That is just unacceptable in a post-apartheid South Africa, and we need to fight it by all means necessary. I mean, we need to challenge it. Israeli apologists are going to be kicking and screaming. They may even celebrate. Bongani has to apologize. There's nothing off Bongani to apologize if he had offended people. He doesn't feel that he did that, and that was his argument, that he was focused primarily on the Israeli state and those Jews who served in the IDF and their participation in the ongoing genocide. Most importantly, there were 5 complaints. Only one was deemed to have maybe be a little offensive to the Jewish people. All 4 others were not considered hate speech at all.
Yes. Now, obviously, this is a lesson as well, I think, for many of us. And, we know that this is not going to end. The Jewish or the Zionist lobby, for want of a better term, is a very, very strong lobby. And they are watching. We've seen in the past, every scene with Bongani. And from time to time, we are going to get these matters being taken up to the likes of the Equality Court, to human rights, to the Constitutional Court as well. And those that are involved in the struggle for the liberation of Palestine, obviously one needs to be a bit watchful, one needs to be a bit careful in terms of what we are saying. And, we've seen even in the case of Mogoeng, Justice Mogoeng, where he was ordered to apologize as well. So I think this is something that we need to be careful about, we need to be watchful of, but at the same time, we need to we shouldn't be losing sight of the struggle for the liberation of Palestine, and where certain things need to be said, which are not considered hate speech, we still need to be vocal about these things, Nazim.
No, we need to continue to be vocal. One of the things that the Zionist movement across the globe is doing is, firstly, they sort of usurp everything about Judaism, and there are many progressive Jewish people who do not support Zionism. So let's get that point clear. Zionism is a political movement for the privilege of certain for Jews above all other people to establish a homeland on stolen Palestinian lands, on where the indigenous people are being expelled and ethnically cleansed. So we have a moral and ethical human rights duty to defend the rights of the oppressed, of people within Palestine, against this kind of white Jewish colonial project. The second thing that we need to understand is that they will then use the conflation of Zionism with Judaism to try and block our freedom of speech, our freedom of protest, and all of these other rights that we enjoy in this country and should be enjoying all over the world. By every time we raise our voices against Israel or the state of Israel and the obviously blatant, open human rights violations, the very nature of an apartheid state, a state worse than apartheid, a better state in many ways, we then going to be slapped with no, but you're being anti-Semitic. There's a fundamental difference between being anti-Semitic and generalizing about all Jewish people and being specific about what you do in the name of Judaism that is wrong. And so when we criticize you for using Judaism to undermine, to oppress, to privilege yourself, that is not anti-Semitism. That is a political struggle against settler colonialism, and we need to keep that fight going, no matter what. So I think there is a victory in this because the Constitutional Court is very clear in terms of what is political when it comes to the Palestine's of independence against the settler colonial state. And we need to just continue with our struggles for the Palestinian people. The thing is that they cannot defend it. Zionism is indefensible. So they look at sidelining you and distracting you with issues of anti-Semitism when we know that this movement, many of us come from the anti-apartheid movement in our own country. We're activists in the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. So we understand clearly that that our struggle is based on very clear moral human rights values against racism, against sexism, against any form of unfair discrimination. So there's nothing within Bongani Masuku that makes him anti-Semitic or anti-Jew in any way. He is a political activist fighting for the rights and dignities of all people who are oppressed, whether it's in Palestine or Western Sahara or wherever else. He is that political activist that many of us have come to know as a stand-up guy who will speak his mind and stand against any kind of wrongdoing. In particular, the fact that we have these young Jewish South Africans going to serve in an occupying army, and we see on social media what this army is capable of doing: sniping kids, arresting kids, breaking down houses, bombing indiscriminately residential areas. This is the army that they serve in, and it's about time that South Africa, as a government, now takes a firm stand to hold them accountable. And I think that is for us the key that must come from this, that we just need to intensify our struggle and put the challenge back on these people and say, how in heaven's name can you be serving with such oppression and such brutality? I mean, how can you just, out of your identity, accept a privilege on someone else's land? This is unacceptable. You cannot do this in the modern age. You couldn't do this in any age. And we need to challenge the designers and those Jewish communities and bodies and individuals in this country for supporting Zionism.
Yes, and also, Nazim, when we're looking at anti-Semitism and how they have been crying foul, and it's become convenient to find a defense mechanism or hiding behind the defense of someone being anti-Semite, and we see this over and over again right across the entire world.
It's a ruse, because once you label someone anti-Semitic, whether it's true or not, then that person is standing up and defending, no, I'm not anti-Semitic, and then the struggle and the real issues of the human rights violations that we're witnessing get second seat in the public space, and that should be in the forefront. Let's talk about what you are doing in the name of Zionism and in the name of Judaism. This is what we need to be speaking about. So whether you assume that someone is prejudiced or racist against you, or that we are standing with the Palestinian people because we don't like you, that is wrong. That is just a nice way of comfort for you to think, no, I'm on the right side. They're all against us. It's nothing of that sort. We are here to fight for human rights and justice. Many of us have been doing it for decades in South Africa and across the globe. And Palestine is now a focal and pinnacle point in the struggle for human rights in the world. and more people are beginning to speak out. Zionism is indefensible. And more Jewish young people are standing up and saying, no, not in my name, and we need to build and support in this. And we're seeing that there is a growth of a movement to finally render Zionism as a non-entity in the world. And despite all these weapons, its support from the Americans and so forth, it is losing ground. That is why they throw these suits at us and go to the court and trying to label people as anti-Semitic when we know that a fiber of that person is not racist.
Nazim, are we expecting Bongani Masuku to issue a statement?
I don't know. I've not been able to speak to anyone from COSATU this morning yet. We'll wait for you to check in on that.
No problem. I'm sure we definitely will follow up on this issue. We will get in touch with COSATU as well, and let us just see what obviously transpires in the next few days. But Nazim, as always, we appreciate you taking time out, talking to us. We wish you all the best, inshallah. We wish you safety.
One more thing is that people just need to look out for social media. We'll probably be hosting the Jerusalem chairperson of Amnesty International in the next week. At a public meeting, so we'd like all people to come in and support. We know Amnesty has issued a very damning report, very much in line with the Human Rights Watch report that was issued last year. And it's important that we build momentum on this and use it to further dampen the work of the racist state of Israel.
Have you got any confirmation on when exactly this event is likely to take place?
Well, no, at the moment I don't have confirmation. It should be out by the weekend.
Well, inshallah, we definitely will look out for that as well, Nazim. Jazakallah for pointing that out to us, and we definitely will follow up on that particular aspect. But for now, as I said, as always, we appreciate you taking time out, talking to us, Nazim. All the best to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Nazim Adam, PSA coordinator affiliated to the SAPDS coalition, and coming against the background of the COSATU leader or former COSATU leader Bongani Masuku, ordered to apologize to the Jewish community for 2009 hate speech. And Nazim Adam just unpacking some of the issues and some of the background behind this, and again reiterating that this is not about anti-Jewishness. This is about anti-Zionism. The time is just gone 8:29 a.m. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back.
Nasiri Products. Don't forget this name.